Dr. Jose Ramos-Horta is the president of East Timor in Southeast Asia. The small country, with a population of just 1.3 million people, for years it had been a Portuguese colony, and then from 1975 to 1999 suffered a violent and bloody occupation by Indonesia, where up to 250,000 people were killed, including Ramos-Horta's own brother and sister.
For today, 60 years.
And throughout East Timor's struggle for independence, Ramos-Horta was a leading advocate for the country, spending over 2 decades in exile, raising global awareness about the human rights abuses in his homeland.
More than 90% would vote for independence.
What do you want the United States to do?
And because of his dedication to fighting for his country's freedom, in 1996 he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize alongside Bishop Carlos Ximenes Belo.
I didn't want any more Timorese to lose their life.
And after East Timor gained its independence in 2002, Ramos-Horta held various high-ranking positions, including Foreign Minister, Prime Minister, and now President. He has shaped the political and societal landscape of his country. I'm Colm Flynn, and I sat down with President Jose Ramos-Horta for an exclusive one-on-one interview just before the Pope visited his country of Timor Leste. Your Excellency, President Jose Ramos-Horta, thank you so much for doing this interview.
Thank you.
Pope Francis will be arriving here in Timor Leste in just a few days now. How are you feeling, and what's the general feeling of the people here of the country?
It seems like everyone, not thinking of anything else, not doing anything else, just talk about the Pope's visit, but excited.
And how are you feeling?
Oh, absolutely pleased for our people. The Pope's visit is really uplift people's morale, strengthen more the Catholic faith, even though we are already 90.96% Catholics.
Wow.
Probably the most Catholic country in the world, with the exception of the Vatican City, because I'm told by the Vatican that the Vatican City is the most Catholic in the world. I have some doubts, but because it's Vatican telling you, so I accept. So
the Vatican tell you, so you accept.
We are number 2, only because they are telling me that.
Did they tell you this when you went there? Because you were there in January of this year. You met Pope Francis in the Apostolic Palace. What was the meeting like between the two of you?
Well, we spent, I was told by my staff that we end up with 40 minutes or so, far more than had been scheduled. It was scheduled, I think, 15 to 20 minutes. That's normal. And we talk many things. We talk about Gaza. I talk at length on Myanmar, urging His Holiness to do something, please, about Myanmar. And I was told ever since, very regularly, the Pope make comments, statements, appeals on Myanmar. And then he shared a bit of his personal story when his father, a civil servant from Italy, went to Argentina. And in a previous meeting with His Holiness, before I became president, I brought to him a lot of Timor coffee. I was surprised the Protocol Vatican let me carry those coffee into the meeting with the Pope.
They flagged you right through.
That was very nice of them. And then I told His Holiness, Your Holiness, being an Argentinian, you probably drink coffee. He said, yes, I do every day. And then I told him, I had this audacity, which maybe it was not appropriate, but I told him, His Holiness, please don't drink the Brazilian coffee. don't drink the Colombian coffee. And then he said, and how about the Costa Rican coffee? Don't drink that either. Just drink the Timor coffee. It's the best in the world. Yeah. Your Holiness, if in Timor Leste my people know you are drinking only Timor coffee, they are so happy.
They would be so happy.
I said, can I say that you drink only the Timor coffee? He said, yes, you can say that.
Well, that's an exclusive for us now that the Pope only drinks from that moment on coffee from East Timor.
Yes, that's what the Pope said. But, then I joke with the Pope in Spanish and said, pero esto una gran mentira. It's a big lie, but it's a good lie.
And that's one of your, I know there are 3 treasures here in Timor Leste. One is the coffee, one is the rubber, and the other is the wood.
Most important obviously has been always coffee for 100 years or more. Then the other is sandalwood. We have one of the few native sandalwood in the world. The other one is India. We have also a lot of minerals, a bit of oil and gas right now. But one of the best things in the world is our marine life, our marine diversity.
And beautiful scenery as well, that we saw when we were flying in last night and landing at the airport. I've heard you say before, President, that this country is on the peripheries of the world. What did you mean by that?
Well, we are on the edge of the world. If the Earth were flat, we would be dangerously on the edge. You make a false move, you fall into dark matter. Fortunately, Earth is round, so no one is in the center, no one is the edge. But when you travel, like from Rome, literally coming to the edge of the world. But at the same time, we are one of the most peaceful societies, peaceful countries in the world. We have 0 political violence. We have 0 ethnic or religious tensions. 0 conflict. Even tensions we don't have among the various religions. Catholic, obviously, 99.6%. Then we have Muslims, we have Protestants. And we have an incredible high percentage of a young population. 60% below age 30, 50% below 20.
So a young nation.
Very young nation. And that present, it's beautiful. I enjoy when I travel in the country. Early in the morning when you arrive in a town, in a village, the beautiful sight of thousands of children walking towards the school. We have very high school enrollment, one of the highest in the world. However, we still suffer from quality of teaching, quality of infrastructures, lack of clean water for the children. The government provides a meal a day for every child in the country that attends school. But it is not enough. We still have very high malnutrition levels among children.
So the country, because it's a new nation, still forging a path and trying to develop. And when you mentioned they're a peaceful nation with peaceful coexistence, it's incredible when you think of the history of Timor Leste, Portuguese colony, but then also the very bloody and violent occupation of Indonesia. Was it a third of the population perished then?
Yes, at least at the time, out of 700,000 people in 75, at least verifiable, 150,000 lost their lives.
So verified 150,000.
Yeah.
But I was reading that it could even be more than that.
Would be more. I'm using the lowest figure.
When you have that history, recent history, with the neighboring country of Indonesia, what is the feeling like between those two countries, between your neighbor?
One of the greatest achievements for us is we are able first to reconcile among ourselves. among Timorese people who are also divided, and reconcile with Indonesia. Indonesia is one of our greatest partners, friends. We have thousands of Timorese students studying in Indonesia, thousands of Indonesians living in Timor Leste. We have active movement of people crossing the border, particularly from our side into Indonesia. And we joining ASEAN thanks to Indonesia's strong support that we join ASEAN.
Because you can see with such deep wounds and fresh memories and young people growing up and listening to the stories from their parents of the occupation, it's a very difficult thing to do, isn't it? To forgive, to heal, and to move forward without a grudge.
Yeah, I have
without hatred.
I have to say, Xanana Guzmão, now Prime Minister, he was President, Prime Minister before, he is the one who really led this country towards freedom. He spent 8 years in prison. He had been sentenced to life in prison when he was captured. But with his aura, with his authority, his charisma, he is the one who told the people, we move forward, we must forgive, reconcile among ourselves and with Indonesia.
And your own story, President, your incredible story of fighting for freedom throughout your career and your life. You have been a diplomat, a special representative of the UN Secretary, Nobel Peace Prize winner, a cabinet member, Minister for Foreign Affairs, and now for the second time, the President of Timor Leste. What is the driving force within you? Even for a long period, you were exiled from this country. There was an assassination attempt against your life in 2008. So what drives you to keep going and to fight for the country?
I believe there is an inner power that guides my mind, my action. Second, I always think of as my sister, 2 brothers who died in the conflict. I think of our mother and the brothers and sisters who went through the war. They survived, those who survived, but went through hell.
I didn't realize your sisters died in the war.
Yeah, one sister died in a bombardment, and the sister that died, we recovered her body, reburied in dignity. The other 2 never found. No one ever able to say where exactly they were killed. Like many others that died, and because they rot in the bush, or some wild dog, wild pig come and ate them, and during that time. So I owe it to them. I owe it to my compatriots who died during the struggle. To do my best, I haven't done my best. I have failings, I have limitations. I'm not a genius. I'm not the Pope. I'm not Mahatma Gandhi. I'm not Mandela. I'm a very basic person, and I do what I can.
What do you think is holding Timor-Leste back? When you think of the 40% of the people here are below the poverty line, and you have such great resources, the gas off the coast, the oil you have as well, could be a prosperous nation. What's holding it back?
Well, by now, 22 years after independence, poverty rate should have been reduced by close to 0. We have a small population, we have resources, we have support. So it must mean that the cause of this, wrong priorities, not enough funding to put on the priority of eliminating child malnutrition. We must do better, we must do more in the next 5-10 years.
And now, as well, you're relying a lot on Chinese support. I know you've made a few big economic deals with China. Some of your other neighbors in the region here have criticized you for that, saying you're cozying up to this superpower. And I heard you make the point that it's, for a small nation, it's essential. Yeah. Is that your point of view, that for your future to be tangible that you have to have a friend in someone like China?
Well, we differ from our American friends, and I say friends. I'm one of the big admirers of the United States. You see, my street is called Robert F. Kennedy. Boulevard. You see Kennedy posters, pictures here. You see Marilyn Monroe. You see Elvis Presley.
It's a little slice of Americano.
But I cannot agree when they pick on China as if China is a world threat. Come on, No, China is highly competitive. China wants to be a global power. They're working on that. They became a financial, technological power. But never once in my numerous hours over the years, conversations with the Chinese, they ever said any word that they want to overtake the U.S. here and there. They know the U.S. is far too advanced. They just want to be respected, to be treated with dignity. Of course, yeah, they copy, maybe they, they steal American technology. Well, everybody do that, The Americans, they brought ex-Nazis from Germany, World War II, into the United States. Or they brought, great European minds, German minds, scientists. And in the US, you had brains from many nationalities now.
I've heard you say that it's almost fashionable now in Washington, D.C. to be anti-Chinese.
Exactly. This is so sad and irrational. It's madness.
And have you seen the benefits so far of your relationship with China here in East Timor?
The only thing I emphasize discussed with President Xi Jinping, both in China and Vietnam, I went to both countries and said, please help us eliminate extreme poverty, help us providing clean water to the whole country, help us capture rainwater, build dams to capture rainwater, help us with better seeds for agriculture, to increase agricultural output, and to guarantee food security.
What's in it for them, the Chinese, when they help you with the roads and potentially with dams and with seeding for agriculture? What do they want in return?
Nothing. For them it is prestige, it is solidarity. It is not a huge burden for them. Timor is too small. We have a historical relation with China because the first Chinese to ever reach Timor was in the 1400s. Chinese traders. Chinese traders came here in 1400, before even the Portuguese arrived. Chinese settlers have been here ever since, generation and generation.
But is it not that they have their eye on the gas wells and the oil?
No. The Chinese have been very prudent, because even with me privately over the years, they always consider increasing support and so on, but they say, as long as it doesn't upset the Australians and Americans, because they're always suspicious of us, our intentions. So it's really exact opposite of what the Americans and the Australians think of the Chinese. They are respectful of Australia, respectful of the US. They want better relations with the US, but they are not going to surrender their dignity, their honor, their right to be a global power.
In the development of the new independent Timor East, what role did the Catholic Church play in the development of the nation?
The Catholic Church has been here since 1515, when supposedly the first missionaries, hungry, starving, thirsty, land on our shores. And for many, many years, the church was the only institution that provided education. very limited over in the past century, and then provide shelter for poor people. And then increasingly over as the country evolved, particularly during the struggle for independence, well, if it were not for the church sheltering people, saving lives, speaking out, I don't know whether we would be free today.
Really?
Yes.
Have you seen the Catholic faith help people through their struggles, struggling with memories of the past, those wounds of the war, with poverty, with the situation they're in? Has faith been a supporting aspect for people here?
Absolutely. When one is in desperation, in darkness, in extreme challenges, we all look up to God. Please, God. And when you have faith in God, you keep your faith, you keep your hopes, you survive. That's what kept Timor together all these years. It was the faith in God and the hopes generated by their faith that yes, things will change, and things change. Beginning with the visit in Timor Leste of Pope John Paul II. He was the first to put Timor on the map. When arriving here, he kissed a cross on the floor, on the ground. Put on a pillow, he kissed the cross. It was fascinating diplomatic exercise by the Holy See, because the Pope kissed the floor in the capital where he first landed. So he went to Jakarta, he kissed already the floor in Jakarta, the ground. So he shouldn't kiss the ground in Timor Leste if Timor Leste at that time was a province of Indonesia. So they put a pillow on the floor, on the ground, a cross, and they kissed the cross. That was genius, and diplomatic genius.
What do you think he meant by that symbol?
Well, that Timor is special, Timor is separate, and so on.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
And finally, before we wrap up, you yourself, during difficult times, have you leaned on your faith to help you in difficult decisions through dark periods in your own life?
Yes, I would say even instinctively, because I spent all my life as a Catholic. I spent 7-8 years in a Catholic mission. That's where I learned about catechism. I took my first communion, confessions, and on a daily basis, all of that. So it's part of you. And so instinctively, the faith in God, in the upbringing in the church, that makes me never lose hope. And I tell everybody going through difficulties like we do, never lose your faith, never lose your hope.
And finally, President, when Pope Francis comes here, he lands in Dili, in Timor Leste, and you greet him, what will you say to him?
A big, big thank you for coming. Apology for making him come all the way to Timor Leste. I feel a lot about concern about his health. That is the primary concern. When we began discussing his program, I said we must make it very, very light for him. His mere presence, if he doesn't say a word, will be already very important.
President Ramos-Horta, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.